Let me tell you a story. The story of me trying to review Galaxy Fight on the Sega Saturn. It started like any other review. I played the game, I formed an opinion, so the next step was, I had to record footage. I went to my shelf, took the game out of its case, put it in my Sega Saturn, and played a few rounds. But then something very strange happened. I found myself back at my shelf, taking any number of better fighting games and putting them into my Saturn. So, for the sake of adequately representing this experience, boop! Better fighting games! Yay! Okay, that's not to say that Galaxy Fight isn't a good game, but it's just uninspired and disinteresting. Like, there is very little that's actually noteworthy and memorable about it. But let's start with the story. Warriors from various alien races are selected to fight each other because fighting game. And you know what? That should be enough right there. That's a concept that makes an awesome, kick-ass game. But you know where the first stumbling block is? The characters. Just to reiterate the plot here, many different alien civilizations. Why is 80% of the playable roster generic humanoids? If you have the guts to make your story about alien warriors fighting each other to the death, I'm fine with that. That is an awesome concept. I am all for it. But if you're going that route, you better go crazy with your characters. Like Darkstalkers crazy. Or Fighters Megamix crazy. You can't just make the majority of your character roster humanoids. And yes, I get it. One's a cat girl, still a humanoid, still disinteresting. One's a ninja, don't care, still a humanoid, still disinteresting. One has flamethrowers on his gauntlets, I should be over the moon, still generic humanoid, still disinteresting. I mean seriously, aside from the robot, and aside from the giant turtle, the entire playable roster is completely unremarkable. The entire roster looks like a group of rejects from a much better alien fighting game. And on retrospect on that statement, that sounds awesome. That means they were too wacky, too over the top for that game. But no, other side of the spectrum, they were too subdued, too boring, too generic, too not actually alien. And with the plot being aliens fighting to the death, I expect to see some crazy aliens pulling all the craziest stuff from all the extra-dimensional pockets they may or may not contain in their body. But instead we just get generic people fist fighting, and that is lame. Similar with the stages. With the exception of a grand total of one stage, they're all very disinteresting looking. They're all very dark, they're all very dirty, they're not terribly colorful, bright, or interesting. The only stage that I played that I found myself enjoying was the turtle stage, which took place in some flooded ruins with a nice little reflection effect on the water. I mean, that looks like someone at least was half-assing their job at making environments. But the rest are all just dark, dank, and dirty looking. And that's just not interesting. Again, we're seeing aliens fighting each other. Where are the alien environments? They're not there. They're just generic fighting areas. Like, they could be in any other fighting game, and, well, immediately no one would want to play those levels because they're boring looking, but they would just be not completely or remotely noteworthy. The gameplay itself is perfectly fine. It controls well enough, it's smooth. I'm awful at fighting games, sure, but I can recognize that it played well enough. Although I will point out, this game does have weirdly long loading times, and I have no idea why. And now we come to what is probably the nicest statement I have about this game. The soundtrack is actually kinda good in some places. I mean, most of it's just sort of generic metal, but I like metal. It sounds good. Got some kickin' riffs in there. You've got some other tracks which are completely not remarkable in any way, shape, or form, which is a perfect analogy for the characters they represent, but there are some decent tunes here. If you want to get your hands on Galaxy Fight Universal Warrior for whatever reason, it's not an import exclusive. It was available in North America. It was also released on the PS1 and Neo Geo, which I've heard is also very disappointing for a Neo Geo release, and I'm not remotely shocked about that. It was also released digitally on PSN for about $5, although I think you're paying way too much for it. I paid about $1 and it feels like a game I paid about $1 for. But if you're gonna go in and get Galaxy Fight Universal Warrior, don't expect a bad game, but don't expect one that stands out either. And certainly don't pay more than like $5 at most. So while you could say that reviewing a game while showing very little of said game's footage is unprofessional, and to a point I would agree with you, I would also say it's the perfect symbolism for this game's existence. Because at the end of the day, the Saturn is known for its fighting games. And if you're gonna make a fighting game, for a system that's known for its fighting games, you have to be on your A game. You either have to make something that completely stands out from the crowd with your own flair and passion, or you have to take what you have and polish it till it sparkles, and just plays better than anything else on the market. This game does neither, and while playing it, all I could think is, there are so many better fighting games I could be playing, that just stand out from the crowd with how unique they are, or just play infinitely better than this. I mean, you could instead be playing Fighters Mega Mix, any 3 of the Darkstalkers games, Samurai Showdown, Robo Pit. You could be playing the incredibly kick-ass Robo Pit, and that game was actually different and interesting. This game is just, at best, average. It's there, but it's just wholly unremarkable to any of its competition. And it was going into a competition up against a bunch of heavy hitters, and it did not come equipped to handle the competition, not even remotely close.